So, I'm a 33-year-old female, and my husband is 32. We've been together for about 9 years total, and 3 of these years married. Our relationship was perfectly fine, and it was all good. Every once in a while, we got in a small argument, but got over it. Last year, I started seeing this guy at my job, and he's 23. This guy seemed very attracted to me, and I enjoyed the attention I was getting from new people. Eventually, we started having sex, and I kept on seeing him a lot. Recently, my husband found out because he went through my phone and saw a video the guy had sent me of us two having sex. My husband saved the video to his phone. I didn't know he had done that until one day I got home and I was calling him and asking if he was almost home from work. He replied with, "I'm staying at my bro's house for a while." His older cousin like they're brothers to each other. I can't even look at you in the face. I asked him why he didn't want to see me, and he sent me the video. I was in total shock, and I broke down crying. I started spamming with messages and calls that I was sorry and to forgive me. He didn't reply at all. I stopped by at his cousin's home, and nobody was there. Then I asked his cousin's wife where he was, and she asked me why I was in tears and what happened between us two. I told her I couldn't talk, and she said they went to throw a party at the other house, and she stayed because she was feeling kinda sick. I rushed there, and I saw my husband there. I rushed to him and went on my knees, and I tried to hug him. He looked broken down, and he was drink a lot. He then walked away from me and left to his truck. There, I saw a mutual friend of ours, and I knew she had a thing for him because she told me a while ago. She looked angry at me and told me I didn't deserve such a man. I ran to my husband's truck and she followed behind me. My husband slammed the door in my face, and our mutual friend held me back and said to leave him alone for a while. He then left to his cousin's house, and we went to the extra home he had in the back. That night, I went home and slept by myself. In the morning, I stopped by the house he was staying in and walked in, since I thought he was alone and I saw him in bed with our friend who liked him. She saw me, and I immediately tried to kick her ass, but his cousin ran and held me back since they heard me screaming and yelling. I sat down with her after to have a chat and asked what the hell she was doing with my man. She seemed calm and laughed in my face, saying I was going to lose him and how he was going to be hers. I didn't talk to my husband after, and I left back to our home, and I cried for hours until I decided to talk to him. We talked, and I tried to get him back, but he seemed brain dead and he was upset. Now he's staying with the other bish and sleeping with her. He said we need to get a divorce and that he no longer wants me since I was used by someone else, and that I should go away with the guy I was screwing. Is there any way I can get him back? Or how can I show him he should pick me over the other girl? This is really killing me, and I miss him very much. I'm really frustrated and feel lonely without him coming home or with him being around me. I really need help. I'm losing myself in emotions and I want to feel him around me. And I want him to make me feel safe again how he used to. Edit. I regret the cheating, and it's just when someone else gave me attention it made me feel wanted. I wanted to make sure I was still good looking, and I needed to hear from someone else other than my husband. Comments. You've been cheating since last year and even videoing it. What did you think was going to happen? That your husband would never find out? Your husband watched a video of you having sex with someone else and then had revenge sex to hurt you. It's over. He will never get that image out of his mind of the video. Go see your family and friends, seek sympathy and support, get drunk, and prepare for divorce. Maybe remember not to cheat on a guy you love next time, eh? Do you regret the cheating or that you got caught? What you did is really not an okay thing to do to anyone, and I understand why he is as upset as he is. I would reflect on what it was that made you cheat. If it was as simple as there's a hot guy interested in you, there's no guarantee that you won't do it again. Trust was broken here, and it may never be fixed. Give him space, lots of it, and then you can attempt to have a conversation with him. Don't beg for him back. You screwed up and really may not deserve to get him back. But have a conversation. Maybe he'll agree to intensive couples therapy. But the power is out of your hands now. You decided to cheat knowing the potential consequences. Story 2. So, it's a book-worthy story, but all I want is for my parents to leave my husband in peace and maybe get ready to be great-grandparents who will play nice with their grandchildren's father. Around 3 years ago, I cheated on my husband. He discovered immediately. I don't think I could have been more stupid. We were very happily married, and I felt completely satisfied and free to talk about anything we would have wanted. Yet all it took was feeling high with a sense of adventure, and I destroyed all of it. We often hear stories about how that often goes after, and I've read a lot about it, but I think our case does not fit the usual descriptions. It was very easy to see how enormous was my husband's pain, but it showed not in outbursts. It showed with what he did and is simply not him. He took everything, transferred the money, made the house inhabitable, and left us somewhere no one can force him to do anything. He let me know I needed somewhere to stay as the house was not it, and that he was now single. But he made nothing official beside letting me know. Thankfully, my parents don't know about that initial part. However horrified some people might be about these actions, that was not my concern. Rather, I had not seen him for days, and it would become months, and I was worried. What with our marriage, what with having children? And behind everything I realized he had done, I could hear his silent pain. I've thrown up countless times. Soon enough, I had no idea what I could do yet, but I faced the reality that for simple functioning, money was tight when I had nothing. I reached out to him for help just for the basics. His point was that he had no reason to help me with my life if I wouldn't help him with his, but that he would if I would. He could see ways I could help him that would involve me traveling to where he lived. At this point, it was more about seeing him again than getting help. Once there, I helped as he suggested, but I didn't leave in times there was no job for me. I just stayed. He was living as he had decided he would, and he didn't mind if I stayed around. That meant living very isolated from everything and everyone. For a long time, I was not very happy there, but I preferred that than going back to the misery it was back home. Over time, we were rebuilding parts of our relationship, and by that I mean mutual liking and intimacy. He was nowhere near wanting a reconciliation, but he would be gentle and affectionate to me. He went from not caring why I'd stay there to not wanting to be vulnerable again, but otherwise wishing me good. That's when we started receiving guests in this isolated place. That he'd help come by hiring guides for them and paying for the trip. My parents, other family, some friends. I could never explain to my parents how we did end up living that way in that isolated place, let alone what I did and that our marriage was supposed to be finished. So in their eyes, he had just forced me to move somewhere it was difficult to see people, and where there was no chance I'd be happy, and nothing else in the equation. I could leave, easily, if I don't mind throwing away the intimacy I had obtained back. I would rather have died there. I had not forgotten the remorse either, which was easier to cope with when he was living as he wanted and holding me when I wanted to be held. I think that makes it 3 years after it all started, when he told me that if I want a reconciliation, he could see it. We could make it happen. We could go back home, seek counseling, and go back to our marriage. He never wanted to make my life miserable, only to make his bearable. We've been back for a couple months. New house, new neighborhood, new job. It feels like the life of a young married again. It's not far from my parents, so we see them often now. But while I'm more than ready to embrace the new life and let the past be the past, my parents keep resentment against my husband for how we've lived for around 3 years. They do not know I cheated. They do not know I wanted to do whatever I had to stay by his side and cope with my actions. They do not know what it means for us to be able to reconcile after what we've lived. So they just paint him in a bad light when all I want is to spend my life with him and prepare to have children. Thankfully, they can't cast doubt because they don't know how it happened, but we do. But it's starting to be hard to bear. They'd give a hard time to my husband as a reward for reconciliation every time we see them. And now, I don't really enjoy seeing them. I'm more afraid they'll soon trigger what must not and he'll leave again. On the other hand, I'm terrified of telling my parents what fully happened. They will think of me as a woman who cheats, and that it is what I should do always without facing consequences like I did. Not only will they not respect me anymore, but they would then be better equipped to criticize the way my husband coped and I decided to work with. I think I want a break from my parents. A very long break while I get what I want like I was supposed to when I shattered it all. I don't know what to do with them. Normally, I don't keep secrets, but I don't trust them with mine anymore, not with that kind of secret. Comments. If I cheated, my girl stayed with me, and my parents didn't like her for the way she reacted to my mistake, I would nut up and tell them. You are the one that made this relationship between your husband and your parents impossible. You should at least attempt to fix it before doing the cowardly thing and running. You still haven't fully accepted the responsibility and consequences of cheating. It does affect more than your romantic relationship, and you can't and shouldn't keep pretending that you didn't do it. You should tell your family and friends that you cheated.